Hi guys, on today's Attachment Point News Roundtable we have Craig Linton of the Hartford. He is in charge of their cyber product as well as their tech E&O, and he's also worked in claims before at Beazley, so he has some really cool first-person experience with, cyber, what it looks like at a carrier, also just the problems people are running into today, what are the most common issues and places where they're seeing and paying claims. Hope you enjoy. Thanks. Good morning, everybody. This morning on the Insurance Nerds Attachment Point News Roundtable, we got Craig Linton with the Hartford. He's in charge of cybersecurity and tech E&O for him. So looking forward to diving in. Thanks for coming on today, Craig. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Brett.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like the classic question is always like, how'd you get into insurance? And then, why cyber? I definitely been holding cyber flag, but feel kind of early. I don't know how, you were tracking it for much longer than I've been, I'm sure.
Well, I kind of got into insurance the way that I think a lot of people get into insurance, which is falling backwards into it.
Yep.
And I was practicing as an attorney for a number of years and got a job at a law firm that did insurance coverage work as part of the litigation that they did, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
And so about 4 years doing that, and I got recruited to join a carrier doing cyber insurance. And I've always liked computers.
Mm-hmm.
I've always liked being an attorney, and that kind of gives, the cyber insurance is kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And so it was a good fit for me. Now I'm at the Hartford. I'm their product director of Cyber and Tech E&O, and that's an exciting position. It's a position to really grow the business, make it better. There's a lot of things that are changing in cyber insurance and tech E&O, so staying on top of that wave is a challenge, but I think it's one that is really exciting. And I think just for as far as like millennials go, I think it's sometimes hard to get millennials to join insurance. I mean, just the name insurance doesn't exactly sound great, but I think that the great thing is there's something for everyone in insurance. And, I'm a lawyer who likes to do computers, and I like to, write, and, writing policies about computers in an insurance company. I think it's a great fit. And, I think when you look around, there's something for everyone in insurance, whether you like computers or cars or what have you. So.
Yeah, and I think we're about the same age. I'm 33, and it's kind of funny. I remember like our first computer having cassettes, and then floppy disk. I'm back in the day. It's been wild to just watch everything evolve, and I feel lucky having a little bit of the old world experience than being able to navigate the tech side of it.
Yeah.
So I've been poking around cyberspace a lot. Worked with a couple different MGAs. Just worked with a few different avenues through risk placement services. So it's interesting to see Hartford put together a package, and I'm just really curious about Hartford's product and what would make sense to go to a classic carrier as opposed to, an MGA, or what bells and whistles you guys might have there or experience you think might be really relevant,
Yeah. So, one of the things about the Hartford is we're a full stack insurer. We're, from the beginning to the end, from the underwriting to the claims, we're there. And we have all the internal resources. We're also an insurance company that it's kind of a one-stop shop for a lot of your insurance needs as a business, whether you need a BOP policy, or you need a GL policy, or you need a DNO, an ENO, an EPL, all the alphabet soup.
Yeah.
We got it. And so we're really able to be a one-stop shop for a lot of companies, and one-stop shop for companies large and small. We write startups, we write small business, we write Fortune 500 companies.
That's
so,
cool.
We have kind of that all purpose. We have the ability to really attack things from all angles. And I think one of the other value adds, and I don't want this to be a commercial for the Hartford,
it kind of
but
can be though. That's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, we're also we handle everything pretty much ourselves. We're not an MGA where or we're not an MGU where maybe the claims are outsourced, or we don't use a whole lot of TPAs, and I don't know that we use any in cyber. So it's a company where you're always dealing with that company. We have a lot of ability to focus on things for the long term. We're not a startup that maybe has a very narrow focus, but we can focus very broadly. And we have a lot of resources that we can use to attack problems and to write the business that we want. So that's kind of my plug. Now we have a very modern cyber product that competes with some of the big names out there that in cyber. I don't think anybody yet would consider the Hartford a big name in cyber insurance, but we're competing against the Travelers, the Beazleys, the AIGs, and the Chubbs of the world now, because we do have a cyber coverage form that is pretty much what the other guys are selling, and in many times it's a little bit better than what the other guys are selling. So, we have those capabilities, and it's for somebody to judge what they need, one carrier versus another.
And then I haven't, it's pretty cool too. Or I saw the Tech E&O side's another thing you lean on. I hadn't thought about that too directly before, but I see that being a huge component. Is that for like consultants, or is that for people who are going to be helping out with your infrastructure, all that good stuff?
That's right. That's for everyone basically, who's in the tech area. So we're talking tech consultants, app developers, companies, IT companies that are moving people to the cloud, companies that are the cloud. Pretty much anything that has to do with tech. That they have an exposure there. They have like a tech malpractice exposure, so to speak. And so our Tech E&O policy is intended to target those companies and cover what their errors and omissions might be in developing software, implementing software. There's a lot of software implementation problems that get picked up by Tech E&O policies. So we do write a lot of business in that area. I don't think it's very well known, but we do write a lot of Tech E&O insurance.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I've always seen it for like help desk IT kind of companies having it, but I'm sure up and down the scale, you need, assistance like that. And then I should dove into the Hartford's package a little bit more on cyber, but do you guys have like good assistance, like in time of need, like somebody you call, somebody hops in, somebody helps you kind of, clean everything up, track third parties and all that? Is that part of the Hartford bundle?
That is part of it. There are, depends on what type of incident you have as far as how things are going to respond. And we do have an in-house claims team. They're very good. They've handled a number of claims now that everything from ransomware to large-scale hacking, big stuff, small stuff, but getting policyholders, especially in a data breach, getting policyholders the assistance that they need sooner rather than later is essential to mitigating the risk of a cyber liability. And so we have some great claims team members. They also work with a number of outside vendors who, they can set you up. They can say, well, here's your problem. And here's a vendor, whether it's an attorney, whether it is a computer forensics consultant, whether it is a notification vendor, or whether it's a credit monitoring vendor. Maybe it's all of those.
That's huge.
We have the ability. We have the ability to set them up with those vendors, but also the ability to we cover that in the policy. And doing those when you have a data breach, that goes a long way toward reducing your liability. Not only your liability from individuals who are going to sue you because maybe they think that their identity got stolen as a result of the incident, but also a regulator, placating the regulators. For example, the Connecticut Attorney General always wants 2 years of credit monitoring for data breaches involving Connecticut residents. So getting out ahead of that, offering them that in advance, working with attorneys who know that, and who deal with the Connecticut Attorney General day in and day out, goes a long way toward mitigating that exposure, mitigating any friction. So that's I get excited when I talk about the data breach response, what we can do, and what we cover, and how we're gonna how we help policyholders.
I feel like cyber is a funny one. Like it is easy to get excited about it when you're in the weeds because like not a ton of people dig into it. So I feel that way about like the NBA, like the Celtics a lot. Like whenever you meet somebody else who really knows a lot about basketball, like, all right, let's dig in. Then if my wife's there, I'm like, all right, I shouldn't do this too long. I shouldn't do this 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. We got to hop off. I appreciate when we first connected and started talking about GDPR, then CCPA. And being in California, I feel ridiculously fortunate if I want to lean into cyber that I'm in a kind of a goofy, very regulated state. Everyone has multiple opinions about that, but it seems like an exciting time to try to build a cyber book of business. You know, it feels important and it's only going to get more important. I feel about a year early on the conversation just from a Main Street level, but I feel like smart people are kind of getting their ducks in a row and being organized right now. Yeah.
Well, I think people are not thinking about it enough right now because the policies that are going into effect right now are going to be in effect when CCPA goes into effect on January 1st, 2020. And CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act, is going to bring a lot of protections to individuals who are in California as far as how their data is handled. But that's also going to require companies, businesses in California and businesses that do business in California to make sure that their data practices are up to snuff and that they're in compliance with the CCPA. And we kind of had a fire drill, so to speak, with GDPR. A lot of, I believe that was last May, if I recall correctly.
It sounds right.
When GDPR, which is the European equivalent, I guess, of CCPA, went into effect, and there had been a number. It didn't show up by surprise. It was, well publicized, but people didn't really get concerned about GDPR until, I guess, a few months before it got implemented. So I imagine, October, November of this year, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be calling you saying, hey, does my policy cover CCPA? Do I need to get coverage for this? What the heck's going on here?
Right.
And, we as insurance companies, we're already dealing with this. I mean, as soon as CCPA was enacted last year, we were on it thinking about, okay, what coverages do we need policyholders to have in order to get coverage for this? What questions are we going to have? What things can we cover? Maybe there's things we can't cover, but getting out ahead of that and having a roadmap for your policyholders is something that insurance companies, that's the value add that we can provide.
Oh yeah, 100%. Just being a consultant, kind of going back to your Tech E&O consulting too. I imagine those guys, if you're managing the IT for a company, are going to have to kind of be in there early. So that might be another thing. Who knows? As I'm looking at, business to build, call them up, talk about the Hartford Tech E&O and mention that they want to make sure that their clients get in, line with CC. I got to know my acronyms if I'm going to sell it, but CC.
Well, all these alphabet soups, they're all 4-letter words as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they're kind of a pain in the butt to deal with, especially as a business owner. But I think insurance companies have a lot to offer as far as educating policyholders and explaining, well, here's what you need to do and here's the coverage you need to have in case something goes wrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're risk mitigators. We help them think about all the stuff they don't want to think about, help keep the wheels turning, help make people whole. And that's where the whole thing with cyber is so weird and different than any other risk. A house burns down, you rebuild the house. There's going to be an emotional toll, which I wouldn't want to understate. And I'm sure, goes on for years. But with tech, just those strings start going out, that tail of risk and loss, and just kind of the information being out there. It's a different one to try to clean up afterwards,
and it's really, cyber is kind of blown up, and sometimes I think cyber insurance is like a teenager. It doesn't quite know what it wants to be. Some days it kind of wants to be a property policy, and it wants to cover brick devices. That's the new hot thing in cyber is a lot of brokers and policyholders are demanding that if devices are bricked, that their cyber policy covers it, probably because their property policies are not clear on that point or excluding it altogether. Mm-hmm. And then, sometimes a cyber policy wants to be a property policy. Sometimes a cyber policy wants to be a crime policy. So when companies are hacked, a lot of the hacking, all the hacking that goes on today, or most of the hacking, the vast majority of the hacking is done for profit purposes. It's a business basically. It's a it's an illegal business,
I heard it's
but it's
actually
a
pretty
business.
organized business. I heard there's like
It's
product.
organized.
I heard there's marketplaces. Like, it's really funny. I was watching like a TED talk on that. Uh, but yeah, that's a nice organized underground. You know, it's almost like they go shopping for the product they want to use. They'll give them feedback on how it went, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I actually heard a story of there was so ransomware. There was a a hacker who was putting ransomware on people's computer systems, and it got around apparently that people were paying the ransom, but they weren't getting the decryption key, so they basically were being ripped off. And so the guy had a reputation to maintain, the hacker had a reputation to maintain, wanted to improve his reputation, so offered discounts for people who would, if they bought the key and sold them the key, if they would put they put a message on Twitter saying, so and so ransomware hacker gave me the keys to my computer back, so you can trust him. And so, I mean, that's what I get. Businesses pay for good press, and it's reputation is everything. Especially if you're a hacker and you're hacking people and you're doing ransomware on their computer systems and you're not actually providing the key when they pay, well then people are going to find out. They're going to Google, I got XYZ ransomware,
It doesn't
and
come through.
right, it doesn't work out. The hackers don't cough up the key, and then people aren't going to pay. So you got to manage your reputation just like a regular business does. But a criminal organization has the same in this circumstance. They have the same, the same dynamic going on.
Funny. It kind of reminds me of the beginning of Rocky 1 when he gets in trouble for not beating the guy up when he owes the guy money. He doesn't break his fingers, just like pretend like you broke your thumb. And then Rocky Balboa gets in trouble for not being a good tough guy. So
yeah, they got to be good tough guys if they're going to make any money.
It's so funny. Yeah, and it's interesting too that I've heard there's like general ransomware kind of attacks that'll get kind of spammed out, and then if it's like a defense company or something, there might be players in other countries that are specifically targeting X, Y, and Z. But for the most part, it's kind of a spray and pray, just get stuff out there, and kind of gets muddy, and people have to come back and try to clean it all up. So
yeah. I mean, some of it's very just throw it at the wall and see what sticks, and charge a few $1,000 per ransomware incident, and be done with it. But there are other hackers that are really looking for those organizations that really need their data, like engineering firms, architectural firms, where their data is the end all be all. If they don't have their data, then they have nothing. Their business is completely tied up in intellectual property. And if hackers are able to get in and encrypt that data and prevent it from being decrypted, they basically bring the business to a standstill.
Yeah.
They can't, and it's not like they can just chuck their computer systems and then start anew and just say, oh, forget about it. But they have architectural drawings and architectural plans, or they have especially doctors and hospitals, they have patient data, and they, for example, if you're a doctor or a hospital and you have ransomware that encrypts the X-rays that you've taken to monitor tumor growth in a patient, well, if you don't have those to compare against a patient returning a month or 2 months later, then that's going to affect their treatment. And so businesses like that, they really have to they should be doing a lot to prevent ransomware, but they also need to recognize that they're targets, and that's what hackers are looking for, is people who really need their data and cannot accept any substitute.
And not to make this like a scary one today, we're talking about all the weird stuff. I've heard stories of like in Germany, like taking over CNC machines and running them till like they catch on fire. Or hackers kind of doing weird stuff with buildings these days too. I think it's going to get kind of more creative, and there's always a push and pull, and it's one of those weird industries or things where it's going to evolve. So the protection and security has to evolve. Like we know what a fire is, we know what a fire is going to tend to do, or a flood. But yeah, cyber is an interesting one because you have to keep pace with sort of the market need,
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes our imaginations get ahead of us on those things, because sure, they can attack an HVAC system in a building, or they could maybe lock people out or keep people from leaving a building, maybe temporarily, because usually those things have manual override.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a profit motive. So those things, I mean, only to the extent that you can really, squeeze money out of organizations by getting into that system doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't think you'll see those things are widespread, even though it's maybe technically possible.
Could have. It's funny, even as you say that too, I'm like, I think these have been cyber conversations. I'm pretty sure it wasn't like an episode of Mr. Robot or something that's in the back of my mind.
I was watching what was it? One of the CSI episodes. I turned it on because I wanted to watch the thing that was after, and it was like the way that the way that things went down. The hacker was like in a car, and they tracked him with a helicopter, and they knew that he was attacking. He needed so much bandwidth in order to attack a particular system. I think it was like rerouting planes through air traffic control. And it was just like, come on. Like that's it's not how it happens. That's not what you see on a day-to-day basis. Theoretically, maybe it could happen, but it's not likely. And those are not the type of risks that we see every day. It's ransomware. It's people hacking into email accounts to redirect the transfer of money. It's more mundane stuff than that. It's not, it's stuff that wouldn't make a good TV show.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's funny.
It's not like that, and it's stuff that would not look good on TV. It's just kind of, it's impactful, but it's not great TV. So,
exactly. And that's most of insurance. Insurance isn't, shiny, crazy stuff. It's not going to be the most entertaining, regardless of what farmers commercials, kind of portraying, or the mayhem guy, it's just kind of picking up the pieces. So one kind of random one, I haven't dove into machine learning or AI enough yet. Like I know they're out there. I have basic concept of it, but do you think on your end or on the people, on maybe the third parties who are helping systems out, that there's going to be more of a leaning on those things to be aware in the future, where we're not going to be running scans as much, whatever else, but we'll have an entity or an engine in the background that's coming for hacks, it's coming for vulnerabilities? Do you see more of a real-time protection down the road for cyber?
Yeah, there are companies that are already employing artificial intelligence and machine learning to prevent attacks and to detect attacks. And of course, now the hackers are starting to use those same things to try to get around systems. So, that's already being employed, but it's only AI and machine learning is only as good as the data that's used to train it. And so if there's something that it's not used to seeing, then, or it hasn't seen before, or it's like kind of out of the ordinary, then AI and machine learning is not going to be good for that. So it's we're certainly going to see some escalation in that area. Now, I mean, obviously, for outside of cyber security risks, I mean, just AI and machine learning in general, we're going to be seeing risks associated with that, and AI and machine learning making decisions that hurt people, either financially or in real life. So yeah, it could be a problem, and I think it's something that we need to address through technological means, but also maybe regulatory, and also from an insurance standpoint.
We got to come up with our AI E&O, AI E&O policy. It is interesting though that and I think we probably both hedge towards this idea. You can have as many protections as a place. You can have everything backed up, your firewalls. You can have two-phase authentication, whatever else, but something dumb can still happen. Somebody can plug in a jump drive they shown it. There can be issues, and that's kind of the cool thing about insurance is it's there to help you out when all the other stuff can't. It's a little biased.
Right.
Cylance, I'm actually in Orange County, up in Costa Mesa, but Cylance is just down the road in Irvine. They just got bought for like $1.2 billion or $1.4 billion by BlackBerry. But yeah, they're an AI, artificial intelligence-based cybersecurity firm, and it's pretty cool to look at what they're doing. I wouldn't pretend to comprehend how they do it, but it's really interesting to think about what they're doing. And actually, I was it was through a different MGA product the other day, but I pitched a product that I thought seemed expensive to a company for cyber insurance. And they were saying they spent a lot more than that just to back up their files. So it's all kind of relative, it's the cost of these policies to help make sure when their systems don't work that you can get in there and help them out. So,
Right. And I think a lot of people, they think, should I buy the cyber insurance policy or should I do the backups? And they treat it as like a one or the other. It's not a one or the other. You need the cyber insurance policy because sometimes your backups fail. Sometimes the hackers get into your backups. Sometimes, you set the backup and you think it's running, and then you have ransomware and you go to check your backups and it turns out it wasn't running. I mean, I saw that so many times when I was handling claims. It was, it was frustrating, but at the same time, it's like, well, that's what insurance is there for. That's what cyber insurance is there for, to help you out in that type of situation. I mean, you can underwrite and you can ask a lot of questions during the underwriting about, what the policies and procedures are and what protections do you have in place and yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, things go wrong. And when things go wrong, that's what insurance is there for.
Yeah, human error, definitely. It happens. So you've handled some claims though. Sorry, not to take like a hard right, but right now you're saying, the policies themselves. But you've worked on claims in the past, seen cyber claims. I don't know if you have a few last stories or a story or two you would want to sprinkle out there. I just think I've heard there's a lot more than we'd realize, but you just don't hear the stories that often.
That's true. There's a lot of things that are happening that don't make the news, and a lot of the things that make the news don't necessarily have a wider impact. Now, there are things like NotPetya and Petya and WannaCry, which not only did they make the news, but they affected some of the policyholders that I've worked with and I've handled claims for. So yeah, sometimes. But the real thing that I don't think is getting a lot of attention out there is this business email compromise. You might see it abbreviated BEC because, of course, everybody has to abbreviate everything, especially in insurance. But BEC, business email compromise, is happening. It's so prevalent and it's so damaging to business. And just to kind of explain what happens here, a business gets infiltrated with their email system, and then an email, let's say the president of the company gets hacked. Hackers look at the email traffic and they try to see, okay, well, who's the accounts payable person? Who's the person who can really control the money around here? And they will direct, the hacker will then send an email from the president to that accounts payable or that office manager and say, hey, got a super secret project. As you know, I'm on a plane right now, can't talk. I need you to transfer $1 million for a secret project that we have in China. And office manager or accounts receivable person, being the loyal employee that they are, they make that transfer and the money disappears. Disappears into China and is basically not recoverable. And the funny thing is, in those instances, it's never like they try once and get caught. They try once, then they do it again. Say, this deal's really going well. We need another, $2 million this time. And they are huge amounts of money. And there are a lot of companies that might say, well, we're not a big company. We don't have a whole lot of money. But that's not necessarily your exposure as a company. It's not how much money you have. It's how much money you have access to.
Yeah.
So you could be a solo attorney with not a whole lot of, you're not pulling in millions of dollars a year, but you're doing okay. But if you have a client trust account that has millions of dollars in it, you could have somebody contacting you and saying that, oh, I'm the client, I need you to send my money somewhere. And it turns out the client's email had gotten hacked. I mean, I've seen those types of claims, but it is devastating businesses out there. And I don't think it's getting enough attention because it's not exciting. If it's on the 6:30 news, it's not something that,
it's kind
it
of
doesn't have a
hack too. Like you're saying, it's observation over time. It's tracking. It's the equivalent of people posting they're on vacation, then people breaking into a house, kind of thing. It's interesting how like everything evolves, And I hadn't heard it. I feel like I had heard pieces of that, but I hadn't heard the story really told end to end about how those things would go down. But yeah, I don't want to.
And
Oh, sorry.
It's unfortunately it's happening every day. It's one of the largest types of claims. And then to top it all off, like not only have businesses lost money, but a lot of times, like say they're a doctor or a hospital, if their email account has been hacked, well, then that's a potential HIPAA violation as well. So they have to spend money to go figure out, well, did the hackers actually access information in my email account? And, you know, is that accessing of information, does that violate HIPAA? And if it violates HIPAA, then I got to notify patients. On top of that, I've lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's a huge problem for businesses out there. And I think it's something that, you know, things like two-factor authentication can go a long way toward preventing. But, you know, a lot of people are like, well, it's too inconvenient. Two-factor authentication is just inconvenient. We don't want to inconvenience our users. You need to inconvenience your users because it, you know, losing $1 million, that's an inconvenience too, but it's less of an inconvenience than actually putting on two-factor authentication, which in many cases is relatively straightforward and offered by a lot of email services.
Yeah, and if you're used to it, it's pretty quick. You know, it's just another part of your routine. But I'll make sure, I don't want to hold you too long today. I'll make sure to kind of jump people to this part of the interview too. Say, hey, by the way, either hang in there till or jump to the tail end of this. This is happening to a lot of businesses right now. You know, keep an eye on your email account, be smart. You know, anything over, I've heard like $25,000, you need to have two parties, you know, kind of, you need to have a couple hands on the wheel to make sure, you know, things are looking right for those transfers. But I appreciate this.
Yeah, I mean, every business got to evaluate, you know, what their risk is and whether they want to make it 20,000 or 50,000 or whatever. But you know, they should have this in sight. And I think a lot of businesses just don't know that this could happen. And you know, they say, okay, my email secure. I got two-factor authentication.
I'm good. But
their clients might not have two-factor authentication. Their client gets hacked. I had one where it was their you know, client sent them an email and said, you know, send our payment this month to, you know, this bank account. And, you know, they did. And it turns out the client had gotten hacked and an email had gone out to every one of the businesses that they deal with saying, send your money this month to such and such a place. So, you know, that can cause problems. And
reputational damage right there.
Exactly.
No, but these are good stories, good things for people to be aware of. I'll definitely dive into Hartford more. I love your guys' small business product. I gotta use Hartford more. I love the small business product. It's something I use all the time. But yeah, I'll definitely be chewing on the cyber, and I appreciate you taking time to tell a couple war stories and to kind of let us know what's happening in the field. Yeah. Well, thank you, Craig. We'll get this up before too long, and I appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.